Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm here with another watercolor and I'm going to be using a couple other things. One I haven't grabbed in a long time. So I've got my Mei Liang palette over here. I've got my vintage Derwent watercolor pencils that I have had sitting on a shelf for a while. I got these used at an antique store actually a long time ago, and I'm going to break them out today. And then I got these and I have tried them once and they've been pretty fun to use, but I was talking a little while back about getting some colored fine liners, and I picked these up at Hobby Lobby. They were on sale for 40% off, so I got them for 12 bucks. It is 36 colors, and just an FYI, they are not permanent markers, so if you put water on them, they do activate just a little bit, but I tested them and they don't just completely, bleed out, so that was nice. But these are dual tip, so on this side it has a fine liner point, and I think it's .4 millimeter tip, and on this side is a medium marker tip, and you can see that there. So they're really fun to use. I just kind of played with them a little bit in my sketchbook, so I'm going to be using these over the top of my watercolor today also. So let's get started and have some fun with our supplies. So I'm going to grab a watercolor brush out of my supplies. I'm going to grab this number 12 round. This is a brush I've had for a while, and I'm going to dip into some fun colors today. But first, I want to do a little bit of doodling with my pencils. So I'm going to grab this number 39, and you can't really buy these anymore, but this is blue gray, and it's a really pretty color. These are like 45 years old, and they still write like they're brand new. So they're just really fun to play with, and I don't grab them enough. So I'm going to make some shapes here, and I'm going to also activate them and watercolor around them. So I'm going to pick a couple of different colors here and just play around. I'm going to grab this number 23, which is jade green. I'm kind of feeling the blues and greens today, and I might put a big one right here and one more coming up, or coming down from the top rather, and I think that'll be a good one. Lastly, I'm going to grab number 20, and this is indigo. And with the indigo, I'm going to add just a couple of small ones. Just like that. And I'm not going to put them all over the place. I'm just going to leave that as it is, and now I'm going to activate these and also go into my watercolor. So I'm going to do one color at a time, and you can see they activate really well, especially since they're so old. And by the way, I was having trouble figuring out when I first got this palette, I was trying to figure out where it was from. And I reached out to their customer service because it didn't have like a manufacturing date on it. So I was really curious, just to have more information and see how old it was. And they actually did the research for me and got back to me really quickly. And so I have really liked this company ever since. I've been buying products from them, and they just make really great quality stuff. So it was just, I thought, really nice that their customer service was so responsive, even with an old product like this. And I have those Inktense pan paints that I did an unboxing for a little while back, and that is also from the same company. So these are activating really nicely. You have a little bit of that colored pencil texture coming through, which is pretty cool. It adds just a little bit of something extra. I've got a little bit of bubbles coming up in my from my brush, but that doesn't really matter. So I'm just going around and going over these marks and getting everything activated. And now I'm going to go in to my pan paint colors. So first I'm going to dip into my Payne's Gray. I'm going to water it down, and I'm going to just add some bits of color to some different areas so we can get kind of a nice cloudy look on our paper, and add some different brush strokes and marks. And I'm just dipping my brush into water and letting it spread out on the page. And I'm just going to have a nice little background to do some mark making with my fineliner pens afterward. So I'm dipping into the first kind of red color, and so we're just going to play around with this and just let things kind of mix and blend together. I'm not going to get too dark of a layer on this, but I want to get some different marks and interesting shapes that we can doodle on after it dries. So I'm just kind of adding color inside some of these shapes and just trying to make an interesting background. And it's combining a little bit with some of the colored pencil here, and I really like what we're seeing so far. So I'm going to dip into, let me see, that first one I think was the deep magenta. I'm going into the cadmium yellow now, and I'm going to add some of that just in a few spots. And getting that nice cloudy look going. So we're going to have kind of a pretty multicolor, and I'm leaving plenty of bright areas. And I might do a little bit of glazing on some of the areas that are drying up. Once I get a good amount of color down, I'm also going to really work on darkening up some spots too. I want to get some good contrast here, so I think we're on our way. We got kind of a little rainbow of colors going on. I'm going to dip into a little bit of a richer blue. I think I'm going to go for the sky blue, which is kind of a nice bright fun color that will go along a little bit with that jade or turquoise or whatever it was that I grabbed, and it will be kind of a nice match. And so I'm just kind of going back and forth between my paint pans and my water and just letting this all kind of come together for a fun background. I'm going to put this in one more spot, maybe over here. And it's just very bright, sort of desaturated. Well, it is saturated still, but it's very bright and very light value color. I'm going to put a little bit more in here. And I want to pick a little bit of a neutral, maybe a bit of a brown. I think I'm going to go into the yellow sienna. So it's not too dark. It's a little neutral, it's pretty warm. And I think this will be a nice little color to add. And you can see it's sort of drying here a bit now, and it's turning into a bit of a glaze, which I like. And we're just building up some of this texture on here. I'm going to drop some in here, maybe right there, and just start putting this in some interesting spots. And I'm going to go back into this Payne's Gray, maybe put some there, and drop some into this corner a bit, and then back into this magenta and drop a few little brush loads in, very light. And now we're getting into where my paper is starting to dry in a few of these spots, and I'm going over sometimes just slightly damp areas on the paper. So we might get a little bit of texture as it dries with some of these sort of cauliflower or blooming effects, and that's just going to add to it for me. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now I'm going back into my Payne's Gray straight in the pan, and I want to add some darkness here, and I think I'm going to kind of come right here, just like that. And I'm going to go around a couple of these outer circles. I'm going to rinse my brush and drag this out a little bit. So we're going to have a glazing effect and also a deeper value. Let's try that somewhere else. Maybe I can do it right here and just let that go. And this is just really enhancing some of this texture. I love how that's spreading out. I think I want to do this in one more spot, maybe over here somewhere. I think I'll go around the outside of this one because I've already got some Payne's gray in this area, so it will almost be kind of glazing over itself. Now I love how this looks right here, and I don't know that it'll actually dry like that, but we'll just find out and see. I'm going to leave that sitting there as is, and we'll see how much it spreads out. I'm going to go back into this magenta, and I'm going to drag this out a bit too. I'm just blotting my brush a little bit and working on deepening up a little bit of this color. And then I'm going to go back into this cad yellow and just going to put it in a couple of spots here. I love that you have just this really fun, cloudy, but also bright look. All right, I'm going to put a little something in here and maybe a little bit more of this pink. And I think we're going to have a great surface to work on. So I'm going to let this dry completely and I will be back. All right, I am back. We are dry and I really love how this dried. And even this edge here kind of stayed a little bit similar to the way it laid down when it was still wet. And it got a little bit more fuzzy, but I love those little tendrils there. I just love the way watercolor dries. So now I'm going to start doing some doodles with these new Fineliner markers. So I'm going to do with the marker first, and I'll kind of go back and forth between the marker tip and the Fineliner tip, just depending on what it is I'm making, because I'm going to be coloring in some areas here too. So I'm just going to start simple and do some little patterns. So I'm going to start over here in this sort of pink area. And some of these colors I have not used before. I've actually only used like 2 colors out of this pack. So this will be kind of an exploratory journey for me also. So I'm going to start with my old favorite, and that is the circle, the lowly circle. And I'm just going to fill in some circles in this area here, kind of around this pink spot, and I'm doing them very close together, and I'm going to kind of color in around them so that they have some nice sort of shadowy areas. And so I'm having a lot of my edges touch here, and I'm alternating the sizes and getting right up to the edge of where that magenta paint is. And the ink is really nice in these, and I think it's going to work out really well for this painting. So now that I've got all my circles in here, what I'm going to do next is find the area between all of them and get that filled in with pigment so that it just looks like we have some circles kind of coming out from a background shadow. And I'm using the same color and just going through gently and finding the little holes and gaps between them. And this is a nice kind of bright color, so I think it goes really good over the back of this. I think that looks really cool. Okay, I'm going to repeat that a little bit right here, and I will be right back. All right, these circles are done, and I kind of broke up the pattern a little bit right there, and I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm grabbing my blue one next, and I'm going to work on this part of the shape. And what I'm going to do is go around the border here, kind of where I see the color go, right up till it meets that. And I'm going to follow the outline around it and use this to make a texture pattern. So with this blue, I'm going to add some dashes here. And I'm following the contour of this. So you can see where I went around the curve there and I just kind of made it look like a sunburst. And just keep on going all the way to the end, just like that. Now on some of these, I'm going to put in some thicker dashes and I'm going to do it every other box. And I'm going to find one other place to do that too, but I'm going to do it in a different color. So I'm going to put this to the side for right now and kind of give this a look. And I think I might grab black neck. Well, no, I'm going to grab this color here. It's also really dark. It's almost like a navy blue. And I think I will kind of play with this color a little bit in that Payne's gray. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some scallops. Let's see if you can see it. And you can. It's kind of low contrast. And I can always add more. But I'm going to add some scalloped edges to the inside of these shapes. All right. Now I'm going to grab this dark green. We don't really have any green in here, but I'm going to do this marker tip and I'm going to draw some sort of grasses coming up. And I don't know how dark this will be over that watercolor. And I'm not actually following any specific watercolor shape here. I'm just going to put this in for some extra interest. So I'm going to add some little grassy shapes coming up from the bottom, some sort of element of plant life. But I'm still going to have it coming from behind this other circle here. And I'll probably maybe have some coming out from here. And I think I want one coming up from behind this circle here. So I'm having it sort of end its border right next to this circle. And maybe have one more just like this, so that it looks like it's part of the painting. And I'm going to find another spot. I kind of like that sort of coming out from the corner there. Maybe there's somewhere else that I can do this, maybe right here. And it can come right up into that yellow. So we have a really big bump of contrast here. This is pretty cool. Okay, I was looking at this and I think these little scalloped edges, I really like them, but I want to make them darker. That blue color is still a little bit lighter than what I want, and I want to add some more contrast here. So I grabbed my black marker and I am going to fill in these scallops so that they can be a bit of a border and have some nice darkness here. I'm going to try this really dark area first and just kind of see how I like it, because if you don't like it that much, you can always just, stop doing it and don't continue. So I'm just going to see what my thoughts are there. And I think that looks pretty good, actually. I'm going to try the next dark spot, which is this one, and just kind of go from there and just see how it works. All right, I like that bit of contrast. So I think these and the leaves are going to be the darkest part of this painting and doodle. So I'm going to fill in the rest of these, and then we'll kind of look at the next part of our pattern. I think that adds a really cool texture and really strong contrast to our centers of focus on this, and I love how this is turning out so far. So I want to grab this color again because we only have it right here, and to me it sort of looks a little out of place almost. And I might also do some more with this little pattern, but I'm just kind of leaving it for right now depending on what we end up doing here. So I might go through, and I want to add this color someplace else. And I'm just kind of looking around to see where that might be. And I think a couple of good opportunities is with that similar color that I used in the paint. And I want to do just some simple little spirals that kind of come out from this line pattern. And I'm going to have them meet up and be various sizes, just like this. And I'm going to go through and sort of stick with this light blue area. And they're going to overlap and be next to each other, some smaller, some larger. And I think this looks pretty cool. So I have some here, and I want to add some here to the inside of this circle here. And I don't need to cover up the whole entire area, but I want to have a nice group of them. These pens really write nicely, by the way. They are, they go down really smoothly. They seem to be very pigmented, and they're kind of nice to write with so far. So I'm really glad I picked these up. The only thing that's a little bit disappointing is that they are not permanent, but they actually don't bleed that much in my testing. So that's kind of a nice thing. So I really like how that looks. I think that's really pretty. And I'm going to add just a few more up in this corner area where I have a little bit more of that blue. I'm so glad that I got these colored Fineliners because they've just been really fun to play with in this painting. This is the most colors I've used since I bought this set, and I'm just so glad that I did. So I'm going to put some of these back so I don't lose where they all were. And I don't know. What are you guys like when you're trying to keep your stuff in order? I tend to be a little bit probably too, has to go where it goes type of thing. I see some artists that kind of have all their crayons in a big box and they're all mixed together, and it gives me the fits. I have to know where my colors are. All right, I grabbed this sort of orange color. I'm going to work on some of these little yellow sienna areas and some of these warmer spots and add some patterns there. I might add just some fine lines here. Let's just see how this looks. This is kind of a bright orange, and I think this might be a good spot for it, just as a little bit of a background. And I'm going to add just some fine lines in a couple of spots on this. I like it there. I think I'm going to put some in this corner, and maybe in the corner I can have them radiating out a little bit from the very corner. And this is a very bright orange color. Shows up really well. That looks pretty cool to me, if I do say so myself. All right, let's see. What else can we add this? Maybe up here in the corner. Yeah, I like this a lot. And it's probably lowest contrast right here, but I think we've got some really good color going on. That's a pretty bright marker. Some of these are almost like highlighter colors, which is pretty nice. I like that. I wonder what this really light peach color will look like on the paper. And I'm going to try to do some marks right in here. So this is kind of a really light area, and I don't know how dark this will look, but let's just see. I'm going to do some sort of solid dots here, and that's kind of pretty. It's a little bit of a warm color. It's a little bit more yellow than you see on the cap, but that could also be because of the background that I'm coloring on. So I'm not really sure. Let me grab some kind of piece of paper. So if I put it right on this, you can see that's really light. It is a little bit more yellow looking than the cap, but that's really not bad. I like that color. It's very, very faint, and I think it goes well with this too. So I'm gonna keep on going, and I'm gonna keep going with this circle pattern, but these are gonna be filled in circles over the background. So it will be a little bit different, even though we're kind of continuing the theme here. And I'm going to go straight into this yellow area, just like that. And I might put a few right in this yellow here. Next, I'm going to grab this darker burgundy color, and I'm going to grab the marker side of it, and I'm going to draw something kind of coming around at least one of these circles. And I think I'm going to do it right around this one where we have our colors kind of meeting. And I'm going to make some sort of rounded leaf shapes. Just like that. And I'm going to fill these in so that they are dark on the background, but they're a different color than that black. This is kind of like a brownish, like a brick red or maybe a burgundy. And I'm going to do one more coming up this way a little bit. I think I'm going to do the same thing down here. I really love how that looks. I think I'm going to continue that over here. Yes. I am just so tickled with how this is coming together. I love it. Let's do some lighter patterns too on the background. So I'm going to grab this gray. I'm going to do a light scallop pattern. How about right coming from the corner? And this is a very light gray color. So I'm going to do my scallops, but they're going to be coming from the corner, so they are going to spread out as they come up. Just like this. And I'm going to have it follow this circle a little bit. It's going to look like it's behind these little grasses here. Because it's such a light color, it will just fade away. All right, I filled in this whole area with that light pattern, and I might add a little bit more stuff on here, but for right now I'm going to stop with that. All right, I've got this pink back again, and I want to do a little bit more on this strip. It's just kind of sticking out to me a little bit, and I want to edit it a little and make it kind of blend in more, and I think adding a little pink will do the trick. And what I'm going to do is inside of these empty sections, I'm going to make these little rectangle doodles. So I'm not going to fill it in. I'm just kind of tracing the outline and making it smaller. So as we go, you'll see the pink just kind of going in with that, and I think that looks pretty neat. I'm also going to add pink to these spirals a little bit, only to a few of them, and I'm going to make like a little dashed line that goes around a few of these loops just as an extra accent. I'm just trying to bring some of these colors together so they can blend a bit and just kind of make it feel a little bit more cohesive. And this pink is one of my favorite parts. I really love this color on the background, so I'm going to stick with this color, but stay with the fine liner more. And I'm going to put in some more leaves and stuff. So I think I'm going to have something maybe coming up around this way, and do some of those leaves I really like. I don't know if I'm going to color them in or not. For now, I'm just going to add lines to them and see what I think, because we have this these really dark ones, but I don't know if I want to have these kind of take too much attention away, or if they should just be a bit more textural, almost like they're in the background a bit. So I'm just going to add these in as is, and maybe have it come right up to the top here. I kind of like having them overlapping with everything, because it just adds a little extra layer. Now over on this side, I think I want them to come up out of this corner. And I'm just going to put in my lines first. I'm going to have one come right up, right off the page, so that it has that look like it continues on. And these are just going to be in front of everything. Yeah, I think I like them empty without being filled in, and just having little bits and pieces here and there across the paper. Over in this corner, I'm going to grab my marker side and do just some simple dots. And I'm going to have them be behind the leaves. I'm just going to go around them a bit. And I'm going to bring them down until that pink kind of merges with the yellow a bit and into these line patterns. And then I'm going to find one more spot to add those dots, and I think right down here is good. There's a little bit of light pink in here next to these leaves, and then maybe just a few up over here. I love this. Okay, I think I want to add a little bit of white and maybe some metallic colors. So I'm going to grab one of my jelly rolls, I think. I'll grab the number 10 jelly roll, and I'm going to grab my gold uniball so we can add some brightness here. The first place I want to add some is I'm going to try this white inside these little scalloped edges, just a little dot, and it's not going to be very much. It's going to add just a little bit of contrast, and I'm just dotting it very loosely. I'm not trying to get like a big blob of ink on these. Yeah, I think that looks good. And then I'm going to add a few white circled in this dark blue area, and it's going to break up that background that we've got there a little bit, the sort of scallop pattern all over the place, and it's going to add some of that brightness back in. And then I'm also going to add a few in here. And these are going to be harder to see because it's on a very bright background, but you will be able to see them a little bit. Right, same thing here in the corner. And then I'm going to grab this gold. And what I might do is color in a few of these pink circles. I might even add a couple to some of these really thick dark areas. And this is going to add just a pop of sparkle. It's kind of funny, when I do my white pen, it doesn't like to write very much on these watercolor backgrounds. The same brand in gold, I never have a problem. It's just the craziest thing. Okay, I don't know, I kind of want to do a little something with these little sprigs. Maybe I'll do kind of a loop just to add another layer here. And we have ourselves a very busy paper, but we have a very clear sort of area of focus. We've got high contrast. We've got tons of stuff to look at. I really love this one. It took a little bit of time to do, but it was so much fun and very relaxing, and I love how it turned out. I really hope you enjoyed this video today, and hopefully this gave you some ideas of some things you can do on your own for practice or exercises. And just grab your supplies and have some fun. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep creating.